for the duo. Sentinel Lucia a little bit more so on defense, on just trying to make sure they have a spot here and are living. Their firepower not as fury or flamey. They don't have as big of a punch. So they got to be careful as to when they edit and what they do here.
Glad you mentioned, though, just how quick these teams need to be. As Trip and Refs will get the initial better end of that cache opening. Doesn't seem as though Sentinel Lucia actually have much opportunity to try and intercept things for the time being. And again, with another team so close in the distance here, Trip and Refs, they know they just want to keep it moving. And the same mentality, it appears, for Sentinel Lucia. They lost out on that cache opportunity, so instead they're going to just prioritize trying to get a little bit of a separation factor going, because you don't want to find yourself pinched in that third-party situation.
Yeah, this is tough for Trippin and Ref Squad, though, in general. I mean, they didn't get much damage out of that fight, and past that, yeah, you got the slurps, but how do you make it towards the next part of your game? For Shriff and Cry here, too, I mean, the biggest issue is just this game having so much pressure for them compared to everyone else. If you want top 9 and you're in this position like Trip is, like these players on screen are as well, you're in that 14th to, 15th place overall. This game is the difference maker. It's as important as a game 6 on terms of catch-up. So even for Reason and Janice, have to make sure this goes well. We're watching a bunch of the teams that are just right on the bubble, and they're used to going for like top 10. They have to even strive further than that. I know 9th might not be the biggest jump up from 10, but in terms of points, it could be somewhere close to 50 or 40 in terms of how things are different from tournament to tournament in between those two teams. So, I mean, Reason and Janice have everything in their belt to be able to do this. 4 slurps on Reason. This has to have something for himself as well. We've seen how tricky things can be, though, if teams get complacent and move a little bit late with these slurps. There's so many people who are starting to just ride the zone with slurps active. You got to be careful. We're not going to have the slurp advantage here at all, but they still have position as they're moving in from Brutal Bastion, able to keep things rolling.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up that point gap disparity there, Shio, because, I mean, you're talking about how big the difference might actually be, and currently in 9th place there for Combeck and PKR, they're sitting at 146, and then you look at the likes of Giannis and Reason, currently in 11th. I mean, they're at 128 points, right? So close, but still so much work to do.
It's a lot. Now Rift Island's in the way. This is where some duos ultimately just end. It's gone, and for some people who are kind of in that 15th place spot, this might just be it. Tries going for it. Wants to control this. The 15 points could have made such a big difference, but not going to be the case this time. Zangi's on it first. Can't really challenge it either. They're going to be able to control and stay up here for a bit, but this might just be the big trap. We've seen so many duos stay here. They don't have the slurps. They can't really move because they'll get beamed. And then as a result, their entire run of that game is over. And this game is basically the whole tournament for a bunch of the teams that are on this island. Yes, Zangi 27th needs a big come up in this one. People like Hellfire Nebs, I would be very careful being here, because if you make a mistake here and you mess up this game 5, that might just be the top 9 gone.
Yeah, well, looks like Hellfire heard you, because that is an immediate disengage from Rift Island. The moment that he hears that capture point go off, doesn't want to expend any further time in that position. Granted, Rift Island always going to draw some attention from the rest of the lobby here, as Hellfire utilizing some of the slurp plants available to get his shield back up, but not out of the danger area just yet. Still needs to be careful about how he actually chooses to maneuver underneath that Rift Island, knowing that there's teams on top there. So still some pressure that could definitely be applied from the top of Rift Island. But we're talking about Giannis, we're talking about Reason, how these two have essentially been titans inside of the lobby, but still a decent amount of work cut out for them. But that's what we got Minimighty for, to let us know exactly what they need to do.
Thank you, Taco. Now, for Janice and Reason, it hasn't been their best day when it comes to off-spawn battles, but right now, sat in 11th place, they have managed to win it out off-spawn. Of course, getting those extra points with those early eliminations. For this team, they can actually qualify from this game. With our point prediction being 188 points for 9th place, they need around a top 2 without any more eliminations to guarantee themselves into that points threshold. So I saw Janice on socials earlier on. He was saying, we're going to go for Island every single game. Right now, it doesn't seem like they've gone for it it. So it looks as though that's the reason why. They're trying to play things out a little bit more carefully, a little bit more calmly, because they are inside of that qual range. They don't need to go for those extra points from the island. They do have an extra game, of course, as well from the next one. So hopefully for them, they'll be able to keep up that going because they're looking good right now. All they need is that top two. A few eliminations might push that down as well. So for this team, they're looking good. They're looking strong. Hopefully for them, they'll qualify.
Now the island's really good for a big comeback and making a difference there. But consistency is the biggest difference maker in some of these teams who are inside the top 12 and top 11. So Dennis Reason adjusting their game plan, rightfully so, as to where they are. It's huge. And Frizzly and Howley, for them too, being consistent is going to be a really, really good thing right now. No one really beaming them out from that top island. They have Slurp, so they have the win condition, or I guess the ticket to be able to stay here. I feel like everyone that ends up basing up here has like 4 to 6 Slurps amongst the duo. And they just stay, look for those tags, wait for the best moments to keep moving around here right now. Nebs and Hellfire ultimately do end up on top of this island. 3rd versus 14th. And they're not going to be really pushing forward. No, Frizzly is pushing forward for this fight. They want Nebs right now. Frizzly, though, chopped back. Nebs with a big shot. And they know they got that too. Will they regress is the question. The reason these guys needed that fight, though, is just they're staying above a damage a little bit. That might just dwindle down. If it's a free chance to go for a few shots, you may as well take them.
Would expect that number to keep going down if the Frizzly and Halley aren't able to keep applying some of that pressure that we've seen them find in the past. Funny though how Nebs and Hellfire eventually found their way back up to the top of Rift Island. Seems as though they still had some matters to settle as far as Rift Island is concerned. But Vidil and Mr. Savage, a team that just worked their way up to that 2nd place position on the leaderboard, and they're trying to keep their finals appearances going strong here. You can see that they have the most of any duo competing as far as combined FNCS Grand Final appearances is concerned. And if they get their ticket to Copenhagen punched here for the Global Championship later on this year, Shiloh, they can definitely keep that going.
It'll be so much fun for the fans to see some of their favorite players into Globals. Having a good time, and it'll be really good for people who are just very avid at watching Savage and Vidil's journey. See them improve this much over the span of the major and the last chance major as well. On their game plan for this meta, it's been looking good this game. This one though, ball is going down, and Alskad is not following. That means this game, okay, Alskad did follow rightfully right afterwards. If those guys are falling into fights, this is going to be a very tricky one. Everyone's busting out all the stops to win these box fights over and over. Caffey Melody up together, suffering from Surge. Lucia does his best to stay ahead, but it's cost the duo the life of Demon. Unfortunate. You can hear these shields crack over and over again, so it's just about getting in, pouncing, and getting that damage once. Then if these guys tick out, Lucia will get both elimination credits. That'll be huge. He needs that damage too. He was triple digits above. He was about 100 above. As these guys land shots down below, his surge threshold goes down too, so they're neck and neck to see who gets to live. Lucia needs to land shots sooner and it might be up against the team that's battling him directly spot for Surge.
But this is still a tough position here for Lucia because sitting at 5th currently, you find yourself in a solo position. You're right on the cusp of falling underneath that surge damage threshold as well, but as a solo, even if it's another team, you can hear their shields being cracked from that surge damage. Now Lucia gonna be a victim as well to that surge damage, having fallen to 140 below and growing. But for Lucia, I almost don't blame him for wanting to be so patient, so tactical in his approach for that duo directly in front of him. He knows he's got company close by, but again, if he winds up getting Elim now, that 5th place position might turn into 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, possibly 10th even, depending on how some of these other teams fare.
Lots of free damage, but no time! Going for these shots, the greed of not popping the slurp. We thought he was free, but if you can shoot people in the storm, you can also be shot. A lesson that I think Lucia will never forget. Not saying that could be the difference maker in them being inside the top 8 or 9, but so many points and so much more chances of survival like we were talking about, Taco, from his position. That's just tough.
Probably one good fortune, though, for Lucia and Demon is the fact that the 4th place team, Moneymaker and F9, have also found themselves being elimed out of this current lobby. So that's 2 teams already in our top 5, no longer looking to build upon their leads. A prime comeback opportunity here for these remaining teams to try and work their way into that top 9 leaderboards, but leaderboard's the last thing on Refs and Trip's mind right now. It's all emphasis on just making sure that they stay in a prime positioning inside of the zone. They know that there is so much congestion building out to the side of them, building out directly in front of them. Refs, though, doing a great job just to play scouting duty, and they've got a decent amount of damage already, but Refs just still looking to compound upon that, not looking to take his foot off the gas anytime soon. He knows just how quickly that above threshold can dwindle down to being below, just like the position that we're currently seeing Nafeezy and Howley in.
They're battling head and head against Savage and Badil. Hold this third, second place spot. It's gonna be tough for these guys, but when it comes to tough spots, they're so good at navigating it. Sometimes it doesn't take brains, it takes brawn, it takes jumping into the box, and that's exactly what Nafeezy and Howley do. Love to see it from these guys, and they're controlling all of this low ground position on the left side for the moment. There's a bunch of space for so many teams to come into. Gotta be careful though. Some of these cones not theirs. I know the team that's been invaded though is not gonna come back. Zone does eclipse half the boxes as well, and they're right beside where the next one is too. So very good for a top 3 team to have more time to be low key.
That refresh, though, onto Nebs and Hellfire could not have come at a better moment there for Nafeezy and Howley. It was one that they certainly needed if they wanted to keep trying to control some of that low ground territory. Wouldn't be surprised if some of those remaining builds had actually been from Nebs and Hellfire. Just crazy how quickly you can isolate one member from a duo, like what we saw happen to Nebs and Hellfire there. Between the Breacher Shotgun and the Flapjack Rifle, it just applies so much pressure onto those builds, and Nafeezy definitely doing a great job to switch between the two and allow that opening to take place.
Got it. Bench your chance and take when you can when it works. What a trap play from Reason 2. What builds up is Zara's trying to be, you know, a little bit good in efficiency and getting towards height, and they think that it's free, but what a good time to do some damage to this. Now gives these guys a little bit more time to keep moving, use height as a little bit of a cover as well, so they don't have to build too much. They know exactly where they are. They know that they're healing too. What a move from Genesis and Reason.
It's the kind of move that you would expect from a team, though, with so much experience and a pretty high IQ for the game, as well as now Refs Trip yet again find themselves in a slightly troublesome spot. Refs trying to do what he can to make sure these builds are their own. Some nice tarping now through those mid-low ground layers. A decent amount of builds to work with as well. It's really just going to be about connecting a good shot here for Refs and Trip. I'm certain that they are looking for a prime refresh opportunity. If they can create one, definitely would put them in an ideal spot to can just continue trying to control that mid-low ground area.
Just gotta keep living. They know that the fight can come to them. Unfortunately for Badil, this is one of the worst times to be able to just get shot down. This is where people might be looking for a little bit of a height take, might be looking to just get an angle on you. You can't see. Savage putting a few more cones down and expanding, looking for a few more shots. Badil's now finally online. Can't really be shot by a Mammoth again. He will be going down. It was straight to the head, but he finds a few shots to people running in from the backside. That's running like it's his head blown off. Howley lost the Frizzy. Still working with it though. 8 builds, just to stay on the left side. You can't drop down, but it's so tricky being up here. Waiting for the best shots, and it's on to Reason. We know he's got some heals. We know that Howley can't even capitalize on that and really push the box. He is able to use all that space though to get to the front. Huge for Howley to keep it alive. Big shot for Kaizen to be able to keep thriving too from this spot. First place just gets longer. Time it though, low HP, still able to live. Lots of builds for Kaizen. Can he find his teammate is the question. Big shots on one side. Nope, he's playing as a solo, but he's making it look so easy. Makes it look like he has 4 different teammates, blocked off so many different players. That's someone else in your box. Your teammate's gone, and now Kaizen's down. That's just unfortunate. He was doing so well.
There is just so much movement happening right now. The confusion that's definitely starting to build up is all these solos, all these duos trying to do what they can to work their way through. A nice moment of timing there from Trip. He's going to find 10 in the process, but unfortunately gets a return elimination onto himself. And now it's going to be Savage. Badil, we just saw these guys trying to control height, and all of a sudden it's Savage no longer with the height, instead being forced to drop all the way down With the way that the zone just continues to pool, though, might not be the worst position here for Savage, but he needs this elimination. He needs to find
You
any
want
sort of a
1,000
for
V-Bucks?
his builds.
Hack me.
Doesn't want to have to drop into the water, but will be forced to for the time being. If he wants to hunt this one down, will get the better end of it.